get the case?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, cool.
From contention one of the pandemic. Pandemics are admitted U.S. life sciences sources. Why drop 23 deaths? Global pandemic comes from U.S. life sciences. There is a false sense of security. The federal government is deregulating by the increasing oversight. There's a looming outbreak that make COVID look like a cakewalk. And AI education is essential to pandemic prevention. That's Borky. 32. Administrations can leverage AI to prepare for outbreak evidence models simulate the spread of disease, map scenarios to access early warning systems, and process data more efficiently, increase breakthroughs. The CSE. 33. AI can process trends that would otherwise be undetectable. AI can detect and monitor cases, develop drugs, and predict if infection trends. And without AI, countermeasures decline, improvement improves. That's great. 32. Without AI, it wouldn't be possible to model mutation, ensure evolution, countermeasures. AI is with proactive containment, short pandemics, and COVID, and university the backbone for preparedness, research, and creating startups is bad at all. 32. University industry collaboration explore breakthrough spaces cost for pharma open for university partners cloud with make proper use of users to the driving force pharma innovation paths by university source of knowledge, novel technology, universities incubate, develop biotech startups influence the whole pharma chain, and pandemics cause extinction as barium. 16. As we add airplane route strains use transportation to spread, there's a crucial part of which the host population dies. US have highly connected individuals that super spread, and there's third nuclear war that's Brazuki. 31. Vulnerability progress action, the risk of nukes increase pandemic capacity and commanders who issue nuclear strikes increase, create accidents and brief opportunity for strike and state by use pandemic to cover for provocation, believe that the adversary is distracting the COVID increase isolation, border shutdown, trade, and trade down and budget out, foreign policy become nationalist and contentious. 2 is AI literacy. AI will define the future of work. Workers aren't ready. It's avid. 33. Very few employees are ready for AI jobs. Education will need to prepare students and importance of introducing AI. More than 7% of companies adopt AI in the next few years. Tomorrow's workforce leverage the AI. The way AI today leverages the internet, and workers unable to will be excluded. AI education installed and ensures adopt adaptation that's similar. 24. Educators need to adopt AI to create educational content, make sure students apply learning master AI skills to generate prompts. People need creativity, critical collaboration, communication, soft skills. Put on the back burner AI, decades AI help with harder skills, and otherwise employment tanks as SEO. 24. 45 million American jobs overtaken by AI by 2030. Is crucial to adapting and staying ready for the future of work, and AI jobs potentially cause economic decline is 4. 16. As jobs automate, consumers lack income to drive demand. No one to buy machine is reducing difficulty. See how the economy can continue. Extreme income concentration will drive the evaluating markets, and that causes great power worthless brands. 21. Slogans makes it hard to keep Topicality. Just grab resources, make nationalism across many. Follow the what U.S. economic research and in Washington engaged in expansion. Facing slowdown, Putin invaded 2 countries. The fear of the decline of powerful motive for urgent expansion. And contention 3 is war games. Current wargaming perpetuates biases that's about 32. Misuse of wargaming occurs because decision makers believe their own narrow interpretation practiced by self-taught minority lacking a wider view, and Gen AI in wargaming sharpens commander skills, refines strategy, and increased caution as burden. 34. Wargames combat foundation strategy. Gen AI already being employed perfect plans, challenge, and tactic model emphasis, flawlessly and no cost. Commanders will be able to train against themselves, overcome weaknesses. AI allow players to test the substance against the endless contingency, allow participants to adapt to alliances, economics, political, and societal trends. Force commanders to prevent the fog of war. AI increase tasks regarding their doctrine, deeper discussion, and military education includes war games. That's burden. 24. Gen AI will be profound in military education. War games serve as an educational exercise, and improved war games are avert miscalculation, escalation. That's Taylor 22. U.S. war games enhance resilience against inadvertent escalation, lacking scenarios, misperception, or an accident, provokes and nuclear response scenarios, simply challenge decision makers, gain insights into what misinterpret and mitigate the risk, practicing procedures, reduce human error, and identify weaknesses. Otherwise, Trump's policy will, with China guarantees of conflict, risks are overlooked. Zhao 24. Following Trump's re-election, intelligence escalated to decoupling Washington, consider enhanced the U.S. nukes Beijing, convince Washington to pursue a disarming first strike capability. U.S. deploy tactical nukes in Asia that alarm China and propel spiral of escalation. Make U.S. extra doubling the likelihood of efforts will trigger countermeasures, perception, China into nuclear retaliation, debate consequences with a nuanced understanding, essential to avoid miscalculations, and conditions force tech race. The U.S. leads AI races, Google 26. U.S. stands with the most advanced AI leads into research models, investment, highest number of jobs, assessing economic activity, infrastructure. U.S. 70, China 40, and generative AI stimulates research and catalyzes innovation. That's Hoffman 1, 2. Generative AI is driving productivity in critical areas, and generative AI address China's co-creation of debugging. Gen AI assists in exploring algorithms in fields like quantum computing, cybersecurity, AI, generating insights and enabling faster breakthroughs, real-time decision-making, reduce latency, ensuring greater efficiency, and university the backbone of tech creation. That's Kennedy 3. Tech leadership will be determined by university to produce experts test for innovation, places where research try and fail, not slaves to spotlight inhibits breakthroughs. And university pursue ambitious high-risk research that private industry lack the capacity to take independent breakthroughs behind the internet. Open AI, intensive deep learning, robotics, hired at universities to Stanford. Without university research, the digital economy would not exist.
Could you resend the case file? I don't think it's ever got sent to me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's because you replied all to the second one.
Oh.
And did you read everything in the case talk? I don't really know about Mark's pictures then.
Yeah, I'll send it.
Yeah. Just send a Mark.
Wait, so did you mark anything?
Yeah, I marked it. I'll send it.
Yeah, just send a Mark to the chain as
Okay. Well, we'll tell you when you get it.
Yeah. Alright, I just sent it.
All right. Ivan, can you open the email and see if open the email and see if it's
Yeah, it's in.
can you download?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Taking prep.
Wait, no, I haven't.
Oh, are y'all cool with flex prep? All right. Impacts of China winning tech race.
You didn't get to it?
No.
Okay.
Alright, I was moving back.
Yeah.
So you read all 4 contentions, right? And you only cut stuff on C4, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. That
I
was.
thought you were talking about
Oh.
That was 50.
I think you keep replying to just us two.
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
Okay, you got it?
All right. I'll send it over to Chris.
Alright.
It's gonna be one off.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh.
What's the nature of the offset just for theory?
It's a theory show. I don't know if you
It's
consider it.
not.
I don't know the matter.
It's
I'll
not
just-
frivolous.
Oh, let me get.
Oh, yeah, I'll just send yours whenever.
Okay.
Can you read?
Oh.
Send it all.
Yeah, I know. There's so many tabs. All right. Another sheet.
Another sheet.
Got paper. Oh, never mind. He got me. He got me.
Wait, do I need another?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just, wait.
Yeah, just start.
Yeah. Just ask Ian to get something.
No, I have it.
Okay. All right. Did y'all get it?
Paper.
Yeah, I got it.
All right, you got it. Judge, you get it?
Yeah, one second.
Yeah.
Alright, we're good.
Yep.
First off is topicality. Interpreting generative AI must produce new original content in the form of video, images, or text. Also, on 24. A generative AI creating new original tech content based on existing data, including language models and image and video generation, interactive learning platforms to reduce outputs. That excludes your use of AI. 424. In the media, we hear about AI monolithic with 3 times the AI generative AI used to create text, audio, images, perceptive AI, perceptive US, people, predictive AI used to predict outcomes. Contention 1 of pandemics doesn't mention generative once. It's AI used for prediction of pandemics. That means they file. They prefer 1. Predictable limits. Debate centers come down to research and give suicide equal shot of winning. They expose limits, which force us to research anything tangentially related to generative AI that's a voter for burnout. They include AI for facial recognition, camera surveillance, and generative for refining school budgets, all top goal, all unpredictable impacts and link chains, and skip that now to precision. Literature distinction between generative AI and other types. You should follow that because it's a way real world expert talks. Topic education outweighs it's the only portable skill. And 3, clash leads to worse debates and makes scrapping case specific responses impossible. A prerequisite deviation. This is literally a new after he broke on us. We could not have expected this anyway. Now drop debater. It's about setting norms for the rest of the activity. They also times by making us respond to arguments that don't value in the first place. And T is a gateway issue. Constraints engagement. So it comes first. Now
drop debater on T1. Additional warrants 2, drop debate arguments. The equivalent severances allows us to shift the different debate rebuttal. And 3, T constrains engagement. They irreversibly time skew us, making us respond to an invalid argument. 4, norm setting. The only way to deter non-topical positions is the command instead to read it. And T comes first. A, any abuse we commit is reactionary to the premeditated abuse of being non-topical. And B, jurisdictionally, judges cannot vote for non-topical arguments. And use committee interpretations. It's not about whether the affidness route is debatable, but about the slippery boat that the counter term justifies. Negate if our interpretation is better for debate, because originally reasonability is arbitrary mix. Judge intervention, which is the worst magnitude takes the debate out of the debater's hands, will preempt the in-round abuse claim. Norm setting is better abuse to deter future abuse in future rounds. Case. Contention 1 is China. Rhetoric of AI, which contention 4 links to this argument. Rhetoric of AI is a uniform, homologous concept to beat China's epistemically flawed. The underlying logic creates disastrous risk management, guarantees innovation, and inevitably collapses, which turns your arguments. Turn 19. AI arms racing inaccurate and lead to policymakers to mishandle AI risk and mishandle upsides. AI should not be used in reference to one technology process teaching to identify features of different teaching to comprehend in language. Talking of China beating the United States without any understanding of what winning means. Will China militate drone fly faster than us? It's difficult to decipher the answers since the underlying logic is flawed. Referring to China as single entities loses much important nuance. AI and essential that artificial intelligence make force without throwing in a single bucket. Chinese power is on the decline, so the worst thing the US can do it possibly is to villainize Beijing through the containment, which only risks lash out. But 121. China's strategy to forestall historical fear of encirclement. Best thing the US can do to stem Chinese expansionism is nothing. The worst thing can do is put so much pressure on China that's leaders lash out the other countries of the world have their own representation on Chinese hegemony. Now, condition 2 is privatization. Integration of generative AI is a blatant attempt by corporate takeover of schools. Williamson from the University of Edinburgh with educational experts Munar and Bodinger find 54. AI allows entities to control public education, reinforce surveillance, and amplify biases. Entities aggressively push AI into classrooms despite no dangers. Investors have no actual expertise and financial benefit when AI is used. The first harm is funding trade-off. AI system will take money from poor districts and Williams entities. That use of AI in schools will require schools to pay for operating costs. Company go charges to districts $60 per student. The district must pay for Google classrooms. AI upgrades. Property team business should call public committee possible regarding the highest possible rate of reduction. Struggling districts gamble the technical bag turn things around. Cut the next card. The impact cut the next card too. Funding cuts are terminal impact. It causes negative feedback loops, which will call about public schools. Albright Spencer 16. If districts don't get money, feedback loop, people think this is great, or they cut budgets. There are no reasons when it comes to education and student business. You can't pick it up later. The second harm is corporate control. AI models are black boxes, which make regulation nearly impossible. Williams continues that models are limited information where data comes from. The analysis and leading models. Algorithms are black boxes, meaning that mechanisms are not explainable, all hidden from public view to large tech plans to generate profit in the absence of effective public regulation. The opacity of AI tools delegates educational decisions from the public to the private sector. Williamson again. AI is pure rationale for critical decision making to opaque systems controlled by tech firms. Facility transfers control from private to public corporations acting as conduit to all schools. Activities must pass individual subject to discriminatory decision based on statistics. Cut at statistics. Privatization of schools and factories for every depoliticizing the population, resulting in fascist politics grows. 19. Neoliberalism attack on critical agency, democratic public services, schools are deterring under privatization and social fears, and democratic institution fears reinforces the assumption that there are no alternatives to existing politics. Cut at politics. Fascism causes nuclear war and is the root cause of all violence. Jackson 23. If you dehumanize one, you dehumanize all. You cannot separate from willingness to engage in mass casualty violence. Dehumanizing white supremacists are not geopolitics. Dehumanization of a prerequisite for ruling nuclear death. Cut at death. Oh, send marked.
Yes, please.
Okay. Should be sent. Let me know if it. Yeah, I think it is marked. Okay. Yeah.
Might have had the first question.
Yeah.
Why doesn't drop the argument solve?
Doesn't solve. We preempted this argument. We said that. Like literally 5 warrants as to why drop the debater in the one in Seashell.
Yeah, like why can't
Wait, hold on. You said 5 warrants?
At least like 3 or 4.
I only see 2.
There's at least 3. At least 3, and also.
You put it on 2 different sets.
Yeah.
Okay, why can't you just read like better arguments and not confident? I mean,
Okay, so that like incentivizes like infinite regression, right? Like you can just like you can basically just go up here and read like sucks as non-topical arguments. We have to explain why each specific argument is untopical, and then it time skews
Doesn't that
us.
take less time than reading an entire theory show?
I mean, look, this theory show took me like almost like 2 minutes to
Yeah,
read.
reading one
Like,
card
and
is
then
non-topical
like
for
you just get to
2
spam
seconds.
4 contentions, right?
Yeah, and you can read one argument as to why it's non-topical for each argument. It takes like at most like 30 seconds.
Wait, no, but like that still doesn't solve for the fact that you like
For example, like the interpretation that you read, the definition that you read, if you read that 4 times for each argument, assuming they're all non-topical, that definitely amounts to less time than reading the entire theory show.
Wait, you also haven't answered, like, there's different warrants, right? There's also norm setting, which is like, you incentivize debaters to go up here and read on non-topical
Again,
arguments.
even if you read non-topical arguments, why does it time skew you if you just read one card why it's non-topical and has like a no-link argument?
Because the fact that you read a non-topical argument skews us out of other responses. If we read one definition and you spam definitions on us because you purposely prepped a non-topical
definitions on you and you prove my argument is topical, then we need your interpretation.
No, but I'm saying in a model where we answer your topical arguments with one card, it incentivizes you to just prep definitions, be infinitely abusive.
Prep definitions and prove that our interpretation.
No, because you're just gonna prep some squirrely definitions and then
Okay.
beat
It's
it.
like scoring definitions you can't.
Wait,
back
no,
up.
that's not how I
just probably a good definition.
All right, cool. A question.
Yeah.
So your argument about tech race,
Yeah.
why do we care if China wins?
It causes massive atrocities. Our evidence indicates that China is revisionist. They're more emboldened to attack other allies like Taiwan, South Korea, etc.
Okay, so like, why is AI key to them, dude?
Because AI is cutting.
We have the largest military in the world.
Evidence does not say that. You didn't read it in my
Yeah, we're asking about your impact. So what's the impact here?
Oh, impact to our contention. It causes Chinese lash out.
Yeah. So what's like the impact that if we didn't read that?
What? No, like obviously Chinese war causes extinction. All right, can I have a word?
What
What?
evidence says that?
Your evidence about how like
You said we didn't read an impact. So what's the argument here?
Look, your Jowl 24 evidence says Trump's policy with China guarantees conflict, which means that implies that U.S.-China war causes
Do
extinction.
we have an impact or not?
On your C3 to war games, you said that. Can I have a
So
question?
Can we agree that China war goes nuclear and is bad?
Sure. Your contention 2 about Ovid, your first card says
Sorry,
has
what?
no. Your first card on your contention 2 of AI literacy has no says no author in the citation and has no qualifications. Why should we buy this evidence?
You can read index. We think that you cite scientific feedback studies in the evidence. You can read index.
Yeah, it also cites reports.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Alright, no problem. It'll just be down whatever they read. So shell C1, C2. Alright, no doc. Yeah, there was a doc. Oh, there is. The doc is called AT privatization, but it has a theory will be off the dome.
Okay.
Oh, for outside more. That's not a doc.
Did you read this intro about anyone else?
No. Is this Flex? Okay, then we're not going to answer that question.
What is this screenshot?
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Anish, did you get it?
Wait, where's it starting? The shell. Okay, shell. Cool.
Topicality is not a motion, no public around the verdict being topical. That's akin to link deficit. The reason why your AI is not generative. If we run deficit solvency deficit, for example, that's not a reason why it should drop. It's the reason why their argument does not have a causal connection. That's just link defense. Also drop the argument solves proportional to the abuse, so we lose contention for reading one contention that wasn't within the definition of the topic. That solves all the drop debate warrants. They only distinct warrant severance. Drop the argument solves and severance is literally just kicking a contention via defense, which is non-unique, and reject norm setting is arbitrary. Rounds depend on technical contention mistakes and not norms. We're not going to apologize to you after round, and nobody cares about what happens in one round, and that does not establish the norm 1-1 definition. And context solves a billion interpretation and generative are being read at this tournament, and everyone is bending the definition of the topic, especially since the first tournament on this topic. If you truly believed it was that bad, you would have contacted us. Also, not contacting us is a voting issue. Because it chills theory. It makes future legitimate uses of theory discredited. People be suspicious of it. People taking theory seriously is weird to any positive effects of theory, which means it turns all their shells off and damage the potential of theory. Also, we meet our interpretation. The AI generates new data, produces predictions based on previous consumed data. AI can be both generative and predictive. The evidence does not make that distinction. They Frankenstein two pieces of evidence that don't agree with each other. Also, they can see the example from the Bourgeois card that name drops specific example of generative AI, like Andala, the Andala AI model. Just because our evidence does not include the word generative does not mean it does not meet their interpretation. Their interpretation says generate new images. Our evidence talks about mathematical diagrams, etc., as a result of pandemic prevention. So that means their interpretation. Finally, there's a major performative contradiction. Look in the document. I said an image of them not having the word generative in their first contention. That means for their own violation that they violate their own interpretation. So their first contention does not include the word generative. It only says digital technologies. So that is a reason to drop them, even absent everything else I've said. They cannot kick out of this because it's premeditated murder. They decided to walk into this round knowing it was abusive, but they still engaged in a model of debate in which they write a contention that does not have the word generative within it. So if they truly believe in abusive limits, they've engaged in that model of debate, which is an active reason to drop them. Now, their case. On China, Chinese tech dominance undermines global strategic stability, causes global conflicts regime. 19. The greatest risk is global strategic stability from new technology comes from the risk of revisions on target to mean with monetary stability has been maintained for decades because the U.S. possessed a military balance of power. China may have been believed if China succeeds could lead a drastic shift in power, upsetting strategic stability and definitely led system and extinction. Clear 23. Great power war actually cross-light the evidence from our third contention that says that great power war goes nuclear. Now, also with both of their evidence is ridiculously old. The most recent piece of evidence is 4 years old and does not describe China's dynamic. That is post-parliament and post-constitutional revisions by Xi. And Xi is far more aggressive after the pandemic because he knows that the economy is declining, his literacy is down now. So he knows that technology dominance, technology is getting away from him, so he has to do something about it, which is why U.S. competition and getting AI is the best way to resist that, because military AI is being integrated within technology now, and AI is the best way that states can extract and apply power because it fuels economic growth. You used to take all of these warrants over their analysis because their analysis was not in the case, and also it's 4 years old now. Privatization on the funding cuts, schools wouldn't invest in algorithms if it wasn't cost efficient, or schools just don't invest in AI at all, meaning there's no impact funding cuts. And on the fascism argument, one no bright line fascism, AI hasn't been in school for 4 years, no impact. And the Giroux evidence is not specific to the U.S., China, Russia, North Korea, all control pedagogy in their respective nations, which dumps and all concepts like surveillance, capitalism, dump the argument about corporate control over discourse. And Giroux is in the context of neoliberal fascism, which is controlled by private companies, not the same as governmental fascism that triggers their extinction area. On the funding cost argument, current AI adoption and education is becoming increasingly widespread. That's a result of partnerships between large tech firms. Costs are decreasing. The Stone 0206. Generative AI tools become available in productivity suites. Education institutions have easy access without incurring extra costs. A recent partnership between OpenStack and Google Gemini can make them more easily available. Experts predict rapid uptick in adoption across every area, and AI has become cheaper as innovation increases model efficiencies. Entree to 10 AI costs will decrease tenfold. Fails 10 times every 12 months. GPT-4 price drop about 150 times. Model will become more efficient. Low cost of delivering AI to users drop toward more equitable access, and generative AI reduces costs and increases efficiency. That's causing your 24 AI's ability to automate, drive down prices, boost productivity and other interests by reducing development costs. On fascism, most state regulation is happening now, even despite the backblocks. The Romaine 225 in the U.S., 45 states introduced AI bills and 31 enacted legislation. The act applies to developers making a decision that has significant effect on education. States inclusion voluntary frameworks provide starting points for industry standards will emerge as legal obligations. And that's cool. I'll cut the last card. That's all I did for you. Y'all needed mark down. It was just the last card.
Which last card?
Oh, just the last card, like the very last card of the doc, and the second card.
You should send it for like storage purposes, but we're not gonna wait until we receive it. That makes sense.
Yeah, I got you. We can start crossing. Wait, no.
What? Cross?
No, it's rebuttal. Don't delete this. Don't delete this.
Wait, think up.
clarify how are you topical?
2 ways. First is that your interpretation says that generative AI has to generate new videos, images, and audio. That's what our pandemic models do. Secondly is that our Borgua card name drops specific examples of generative AI.
Bordua? Where?
Borghua.
It's not in your case. Wait, I'm pause prep.
Yeah.
Wait.
Borgua.
I
GHUA.
misspelled it.
Prep is pause though.
Oh, my bad. It's Borgi.
Borgi?
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Borgi.
Okay,
GHI.
cool. That's cool. Okay, resume. Okay, we were at 1 minute 30, right?
Okay.
And we're resuming? Okay. We're at minute 30, we're zooming. Okay. That's all our prep. Yeah.
Order. Yeah. Order is T neg F. Order on T, or I'm gonna handle the contact stuff first.
Am I expecting it on?
Huh?
Am I expecting it on?
Yeah. I'm gonna send it when I get it. Wait, is this for? Let me just finish. Is this right? Okay. Set. Ready?
Give me 1 second. What's the order?
Orders contact T neg F.
Wait, what's the stuff at the top?
It's on the app or on the neg. It's a front line.
Oh, okay, that's cool. I'm good.
Good?
Yeah.
Start on contact, it wasn't even read as a show. There's no reason to drop us. Why would we contact you and say new after you couldn't have predicted that you're non-topical, which means that we have to contact you for like infinite in terms of in-round abuse. We have no way to know that you would be non-topical. Also, there's no counter to bread onto you, which means that you cannot win on it given they have conceded counting competing in terms of the only way to win onto you. They do not mean. We have re-highlighted their evidence. It specifically says the mathematical models, which is predictive AI. Also, the TFA evidence is about processing data, which we have explicitly said is not topical. They can win that mathematical models are images, but insofar as part of the advocacy is not topical, it's a reason to drop them.
It's also not images.
Also, like, it's mathematical models. Models are not images. That's ridiculous. Even if it's something that you see visually, it is not an image. Insofar as there's a very distinct reason why they don't call it mathematical images. Also, they say it's not a voting issue, no warrant. Why? They say drop the argument solves. No, it doesn't. We explicitly said that you have to deter future abuse, and otherwise they can read infinite non-topical arguments and skew us out of the round, and they have specifically dropped that they have time skewed us. We're going for precision. They have we're going for constituentism. They have completely dropped that. You cannot evaluate non-topical arguments, which means that it is a reason for you to drop them. Also, because of clash, because we cannot clash with their argument, we don't have meaningful responses against it. Then.
Also precision in topical education.
Topical education is important. We cannot engage with you. There's no topical education, which is important for real world like policy making. They say there's a screenshot that proves we're not topical either. The screenshot doesn't even show anything. I urge you to look at it. I looked at it. I expanded it. I cannot see anything. I'm not even going to respond to it. Then on the neck. First, on China,
they say we.
They say we don't mention it. Yes, we. Like,
Wait, they say like we have some we also like don't do something like all abuse that we have is predicated on their
yeah,
abuse.
all of this is predicated on theirs. That's completely
Which means that
off.
their RBI
Which
does
means
not
it's a
apply.
prior question because they are abusive before us. Go
Also,
to China.
also no RBIs.
No RBIs. I already said that. Okay. Go to China first. Their first card is literally ridiculous. All it says is there's a revisionist winner, then it'll cause nuclear war. There's no warning given in the last speech for why China's revisionist. You should not just go into a debate around and assume that China's evil. That is ridiculous. They say that China's like she has like revised the constitution. No evidence provided or no warrant why that's actually a bad thing. They say our evidence is 4 years old. It doesn't matter if the evidence is very specific. It tells us that we go into a technically and we don't define what it means for China to win. Insofar as we are not defining how we win over China, we are just doing things to be more superior over China, which drives an infinite arms race. Go to people on privatization. We're kicking defunding leak. It doesn't matter if cost declines. We're going to argue that innovation incentivizes companies to be less good and more biased because AI increases so fast that the standards are bad and regulations can't keep up fast enough, which means that even though costs go down is bad for schools. They go to fascism. They say like our card's not specific to private fascism. Yes, it is. They say that private surveillance cap dumps. No, it doesn't. There's no surveillance cap in education right now specific to like AI and privatization. Also, they say that they say regulations are coming out. No. Lack of knowledge about general models prevents effective regulation. Telecom and long 24 modern Gen AI more general purpose. Most of the work to auto models has been models that have a specific objective. Gen AI range of tasks much greater. Even each of those with their own even highly regulated context is not entirely clear that models will be used. Regulators are shooting in the dark. Go to the ask. First, model class, the car 23 generative AI flooding the internet with synthetic content is already having 537 AI generated new sites. Future models predominantly train on their own outputs. It appears inevitable the cycle of inbreeding will bring a bland AI echo chamber, an irreversible process. It takes only a few generations for outputs to become useless. That takes out all of their arguments. It's terminal defense as well as eternal because we invest money in AI which doesn't even do anything in the long term. Go to their pandemics first.
Wait,
Don't go to pandemics because at worst you drop the argument. AI literacy, they have no author calls for the uniqueness evidence, which is a reason not to evaluate. The TFA Constitution explicitly says that qualification of the author, professional title, or expertise are required. Any evidence falling short should be afforded no legitimacy, which is a warrant to drop the entire argument insofar as they have no uniqueness. Also, even if AI is good in theory, lack of district policy means you can't implement it, so there's no AI literacy. Plan 24, 79% of educators in districts do not have a clear policy. Go to war games. AI won't transform militaries. Hikla, 22 companies that sell military AI make expansions claims with techniques are still in their infancy, and you can cross-apply all the arguments about military insofar as we are fighting the military against China. It's not a good thing because it spurs an infinite arms race, and it also takes out their argument about China because there's no impact right on this. They cannot cross-apply an impact from the other cases they don't do it explicitly. Yeah. Also adding the TFA card that I read. The doc. Set.
Alright, I'll let you know when I get it.
Cross.
No, we're gonna take some prep first.
All right, cool.
Do you have the extensions of T ready? Will you be to extend it? Okay.
Okay,
A minute?
that was a minute? That wasn't time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright. You good for crossfire today?
Yeah.
If China is not revisionist, why did they build their own ICBMs a few months ago?
I mean,
Wait.
this wasn't read in the round.
Uh,
Okay, I mean, I don't think a country building military supplies makes them
the
revisionist.
U.S. has
Yeah,
way.
but
The U.S. has like 3,000 nuclear
Xi
weapons.
built them at
China
the same
has-
time as he was giving a speech about invading Taiwan. So why did he do that?
I mean, I don't think that's a reason why tech
I mean-
supremacy causes extinction. And
I mean,
even
look,
so,
look,
you
like
need
China.
to.
China talks about invading countries. The U.S. actually
China
invades them.
revisionist or not?
I mean,
What? We
okay.
will contest that China's revisionist.
Okay,
Um,
do revisionist countries or do non-revisionist countries threaten to invade islands?
I mean, this question is irrelevant insofar
yes. Well, like,
as
is the
wait,
U.S.
wait.
is the U.S. revisionist?
To an extent, yeah.
All right, cool. What are your
Okay,
questions?
so-
Yeah,
They're
what'd you
one
say?
who wants to establish
What'd
their
you
own
say?
world order.
Okay, yeah, that's fine then.
All right, cool.
We'll take a question. Let's go to the AI literacy argument. If AI has no guardrails, and students are being taught different AI, different companies, different information coming out, doesn't that worsen the economic disparities you're talking about?
No, I don't see that.
Like if there are
we
like
would say that
100
some
different.
is better than none. Just because AI is not fully sophisticated now.
Wait, okay, so if AI spits out false information like a third of the time and it's bad AI, how is it like better than nothing?
Yeah, so like false info, like knowledge is a linear process, right? You learn some wrong things, but you also learn some good things. The point is AI generally produces correct information that democratizes knowledge. Can I have a question?
Yeah, sure.
Let's talk about, let's stick to the topic of China.
Sure.
So if China's not revisionist, why did Xi threaten to invade Taiwan?
Not evidence spread in the round. We can't consider it.
I mean, yeah, like first of all, this is new out of summary.
First off,
Our
let's talk about that. And more importantly, this is a crossfire question. I'm just asking.
That's fine. Our objection from the start was you read a constructive and you read a rebuttal with no warrants why China would actually cause war. You assumed it to be true, and then now you're trying to read new evidence that China actually
we
is
clearly did not
revisionist.
engage in this round intending to like, you're right. We
I mean,
weren't fast enough in constructive. That's not the same thing as engaging, like,
Okay.
assuming that China revisionist.
Wait, so that does
I
that
mean,
mean you're
I think you have
responsible
your
for the type of arguments that you read in your case?
Yeah, absolutely. But we
Okay.
because this is functionally a legal submission where you're just like, oh, you didn't say this, therefore you should lose. Our argument is that
No. This is like
No, we were saying-
this is like wait, we're saying like okay. So if you chose to read it, so you chose not to finish the C4, right? So then why did you choose to
did
read
not
a non?
choose not to finish
Okay,
it.
so why did you?
We have time to
So why?
finish
Okay, so why did you choose to read a non-topical argument in the first contention?
Wait, we're talking about T now.
Yeah, sure. That's sure.
But we think it's topical, and even if it's not, we think
Okay,
it's
that's
wrong.
fine. Let's go back to the China page. Okay, you messed up in constructive. Why did you then read like a card about China being about revisionism being bad, and then you gave no warrants for
then
China
you presented an
revisionist?
argument about China not being revisionist. I disagree with that.
Isn't it your burden of proof to prove that they're revisionists in the first place? Like you read an impact card with no internal link.
Yeah.
You read revisionism bad with no China
You didn't have
revision.
time to engage with that. That's different from.
That was it was rebuttal. What do you mean
Also,
you didn't
that
have
is
time?
truly so problematic.
That's false.
You would be able to read evidence that says that what we said was not true. With the burden of questions about that. We have 2 minutes.
Yo, is it? Dude, where did my pen go?
Bro,
Oh, it's right there. It's right there. Camouflaged.
wait, I didn't go for this.
Yeah. Just call what you did. Right? Yeah.
Wait, it's not. Wait, dog. Say to this. Oh my god, my Wi-Fi.
Alright, 137.
Taken or left? Okay.
So you have 23 left?
Yeah.
Is there a doc?
No. Order is going to be the shell, our case, their case. Everyone good? Are all good?
Yeah.
On the shell, extend the purported contradiction. Their first contention did not have the word generative AI once. They dropped this is premeditated murder. The fact that they knew that their abuse was abusive, but they came into round and did it anyway. They cannot sever off this independent reason to drop them. They say that we were abusive first. This is not a reason to just justify reading abusive practices. Just because I read some sort of non-topical argument does not mean that they can just do the equally abusive topic and they cannot sever out of this. They themselves have said that the non-topical arguments are not good, and they themselves have read a non-topical argument by not reading the word generative AI once in the first contention, which you should independently drop them for this argument. The next argument that I'll go for the we-me, they dropped the Borger evidence from our pandemic contention that literally name drops generative AI models that do things such as innovate mathematical diagrams and generate new content, which is definitionally their interpretation. I urge you to read the Borger evidence, and it's fantastic. The next argument that I'll go over is the fact that norm setting has no impact. They dropped it. There's no impact in norm setting because the only benefit and the only impact out of theory debates is technical concessions and asking them how could we have improved answering the theory shell in the first place. They dropped the technical concessions, overwhelmed the ability for us to ask questions or apologize to them for this abusive practice. There's no impact in norm setting. This is conceded with they have no impact to the theory shell. Now on our case. Also, they continue to drop the argument solves. The harm is proportional. We read one single non-topical argument, that dropping that argument specifically is proportional to the violation, which should solve all their offense, and that means that we solve back for their interpretation. Now, on case. On top shelf, they say that model collapse happens. They've conceded the uniqueness on our war games argument that indicates that generative AI is increasing the likelihood of war game accuracy, which definitely overwhelms this argument. In addition, their argument is just about generative AI in terms of public internet, but our argument is talking about qualified military experts and the U.S. military using itself, which means it does not generate bad content. Now, extend war games proper. War games are inevitable but written with bias absent AI. We're going for the commander training link that indicates that generative AI in war games simulates real-time situations and forces military commanders to adapt and overcome strategic weaknesses that improve tactics and real confidence. The burden of evidence Trump's belligerency with Russia and China has raised the chance of war, but enhanced war games decrease the chance of inadvertent escalation by minimizing bias and miscalculations. Otherwise, escalates nuclear causing extinction due to foreclosure of agricultural development. The only response they have is that AI collapses mutually assured destruction. But our argument is not about integrating AI into necessary military capabilities, but rather using AI in war game simulations, which is definitionally different, which is that we do not link to the impact turns. Now, on C1, we will concede as non-topical, which on C2, we will concede that the TFA rule is violated, which means there's no impact to the turn. Now, extend the way to it. We turn their case first. We turn the C1 because it means that we can calculate what threats to actually calculate in the first place. We can effectively come back to China and outweighs on time. They got the miscalculation, cause extinction fast, but you have no idea when fascism caused extinction. Now, their case on C1, they dropped numerous analytics. First, they conceded that Xi is aggressive. Now, he's increasingly becoming more belligerent and threatening to literally invade Taiwan. They say there's no evidence. It's just common sense. Xi has been threatening to invade Taiwan, and they dropped it after the pandemic because Xi's legitimacy is plummeting as a result of economic crisis. He has more of an incentive to attack. You know that our rhetoric is good. On C2, they dropped there's no impact to fascism. The fact that generative AI has been in school for decades, and for 4 years at the very best, we have not seen any sort of fascism impact, which you probably should be skeptical. And the second thing is argument that I'll go for is the fact that their interlink evidence is about governmental fascism, but the Giroux evidence identifies new liberal fascism, which is definitionally different.
Okay, no prep. So going up here. You said it was the Bordy evidence, right? That meets.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
That should have been flex prep, but
I mean, you're right. My bad. But I mean,
It rectifies what you did earlier. Balances
I'm
out.
just kidding. Okay.
balances out. Crazy. Okay.
Wait, is there a dot?
Yeah. So one in our. It's one card, which is their evidence actually. Yeah. It's gonna be on T.
Yeah, the new. Yeah, for you.
Yep.
My
Yep.
Wi-Fi isn't working. So all the others I made just not working. Just connecting to my internet. Yeah, I'm not trying to see.
Yeah, don't.
Okay, we can start.
Okay. All right. T extend the interpretation that generative AI must produce new original content in the form video, images, or text. That's the elusive evidence, which is straight dropped. Also, they excludes their definition of AI because their definition of AI is definitely prediction. They have dropped their contention one about their contention one about academics. So the violation itself. The contention one is definitely not T. Look, the only evidence that they cited for why they meet was the Borg evidence. Look at the document. It does not mention generative AI once. Even it's in the article, it was never highlighted, which means that obviously it's not T. Also conceded that we re-highlighted our evidence in rebuttal and a clean drop that it says mathematical models of machine learning, which is by definition not video, images, or text. It is predictive AI. It is not generative AI, which is why the affirmative is not topical. They say now following the.
They also dropped that processing is non-topical.
Yeah, also drop that processing data is non-topical by definition is prediction. Now go to the standards. We're going for precision and literature distinguishes between generative AI and other types. You should follow because that's the way real world expert talks. Top education outweighs it's the only portable skill. Also extend class. We were unable to engage with the affirmative because it was non-topical. That's why we weren't able to read any responses on our condition one on pandemics. It's dropped the debater. It's not just about setting norms. We'll concede that even if norms don't spill over, to concede that in-round abuse happened because there was no clash that we could no clash that we could do. Also norm setting definitely is true proven by the fact that disclosure and stuff is actually true. It's not just a technical concession. They say drop the argument solves. No, it doesn't. You've irreversibly time skewed us. We have to read this 2-minute shell to answer your 1 minute contention one, which is that you always get a positive time trade-off. Also, independently drop the incentivizes debaters to do a race to the bottom or basically just read as many non-topical arguments as possible, just kick out of them later, which means there's infinite abuse under their interpretation. Also, wait a second. They didn't read a counter interpretation. Look, it's game over when they can see they not read a single response to competing interps because reasonability is arbitrary in the last speech or in any of the other speeches, that they did not read a counter interpretation of what topicality looks like, which means that the only definition is what topicality counts for is our side, and which means that if they do not read a counter interp, they should automatically lose because competing interps is completely conceded, which means that all their arguments are just look, how you should frame it is that all their arguments are just defense on the shell. They have not read any particular offense, which is why not read any particular offense, which is why any risk that they are on topical means that you vote for the negative of in-round abuse or norm setting. But even then, they read a turn on this. Look, the perfcon does not apply. It's ridiculous. We're not reading a K. Look, we're not saying we're reading a K. Even then, the violations also look. If premeditated murder is true, right? They are the premeditated murders. It's a question of sequencing. They read the 1AC first. They knew that they conceded that that the pandemic's argument is non-topical, which means that they had the abuse first. So we had to be non-topical in order to respond to their non-topicality. Also, it's illogical. Remember that like only we're not like non-topical because they're not. Also, it's illogical. Yeah. Also, on T once again conceded that. It's a judge's jurisdiction. Conceded jurisdiction in the last speech also it's a TKO because that as a judge you cannot evaluate non-topical arguments, which is why you vote for us even if there's no abuse proven. Now go to case.
We were on the perfcon. Like it is a question of how you evaluate abuse first. They first.
Yeah, perfcon. It's just a question of like sequencing, right? Like, look, they did the actual premeditated murder. They stood up here, read a non-topical argument. We were just responding to a non-topical argument, which is why you predict.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
If I'm racist, is that justify you being racist?
I mean, it is a question of how the judge evaluates it. Like, if the judge...
It's not okay. Yeah, so it's not racism, right? Like
No. But like,
remember once again,
debate justifies you abusing your own interpretation to like just because I did it
wait.
first.
I specified.
Racist, justify you being racist.
Okay, first of all, I specified we're not reading a K, right? We have not claim that you're racist in any way, so this is not a good analogy. But secondly, that you read a non-topical affirmative, which means that we had to engage on your level, which was non-topical, which means we are forced to read arguments that did.
Okay.
Yeah.
first off, we both know that's not true. You read like a 4-minute net case that was topical and previous.
Wait, no, it was
Yeah,
actually
it
a
was
2-minute net case
class work.
because remember your affirmative is non-topical, so we had to spend time on T.
Yeah, the framing idea is just like even if there are 2 violations, you as a judge should look at the violation that happened first because that is what is first in your mind. You should drop the team that violated.
Okay, neg abuse is reactionary. That's our
You
argument.
drop the person who violated before you can even get to the idea of us violating.
You came into the ground with this cards cut. We did not cut these cards immediately in response to this. In response
Well,
to us.
okay, no, we did not come in here with a cards
Wait,
cut.
David, these are
like
the
my
first-
partner asked, if you are racist, does that justify me being racist?
David, to be clear, this idea of
Yeah.
you had responses so you didn't
Wait,
get skewed is
so
ridiculous.
the first
That's not
contention.
My argument is that you did not immediately read this argument in reaction to us. Also, if that was true, if you read this non-topical argument in response to us being non-topical, there's no reason why you would have to read the shell.
Okay, wait, how is
because
C1
we would just
non-topical?
abide by that model of
How is
debate.
C1 non-topical if it's an impact turn to your C4?
Wait, sorry, what are we talking about?
How is C1
The contention
non-topical?
one.
This argument was not made whatsoever.
Okay, sure.
Okay. You want a question?
Yeah. So honestly, like, where in your Borgiev does it actually say the word generative AI?
We think
Okay, so AI models. So once again, we made
your
this.
standard for what constitutes generative AI is the production of new images. Mathematical models or diagrams.
Okay, so
Okay.
why did it say mathematical images?
Well, okay, wait.
Okay, but models are definitionally images.
It says quote machine learning.
Also,
How is that?
Wait, this is
Machine
also.
learning can produce things like graphs, diagrams.
So we don't know whether or not it's actually generative AI. We just you're just assuming that it is.
Your interpretation is that we should generate new models, new images.
No, wait.
No.
But the issue is.
Our AI, even though it does not say generative, generates mathematical models.
Yeah.
There's another violation that was
generative
dropped.
and images.
It's okay, I got it.
Okay, yeah. So just
Sorry, we have like 30 seconds.
Sorry, order again?
No, I'm saying for
Sorry.
yeah.
Okay, really quick.
If we win terminal defense on the shell, you're voting on substance because the affirmative prevents board games. The extension is on the ground because they conceded the argument. Now the shell. Extend the performative contradiction that they performatively contradicted their argument. Their first contention does not include the word generative whatsoever, so it's a performative contradiction. Every single new answer in the previous speech was brand new. You strike it off your flow, and this is entirely irrelevant. They read a contention that does not include the word generative. That was the violation. That was the standard that they established when they introduced the shell. So if they violate, that is game over. Performative contradiction that way on premeditated murder. You clearly pre-wrote the shell, so you have some interpretation or some conception of what generative AI is, but you walked into this round knowing that you're really reading the convention did not include the word generative whatsoever. Their argument about it being reactionary is obviously nonsense. If I was racist, that does not mean you should be indefinitely racist. If I read a non-topical argument, why didn't you add 10 minutes to your speech time? It's obviously because it's entirely irreciprocal. And if you read the shell, there's no reason why you would have to read additional abuse. You would just lay all of your eggs in that basket and read that shell. Now, in addition, I'll answer some of their arguments here. It should broadly be irrelevant because there's equal abuse on both sides. But they read this and performatively contradict themselves, so they should be dropped for it. But I'll answer their arguments here. Their jurisdiction stuff doesn't matter. It only applies to substance. So there's no reason why it's a unique argument on the theoretical layer. Secondly, they basically just shot themselves in the foot by reading in-round abuse over norm setting model in summary. If it is true that in-round abuse comes before norm setting, that's the question: what abuse occurred in this round? We kicked our first contention to demonstrate that the abuse was literally zero. So there was no offense getting on this page on norm setting stuff. They dropped the norm settings incredibly arbitrary, and that technical concessions overwhelm. After this round, if you vote for them, we will simply say, oh, we technically messed up this part of the flow. We will not change our interpretation or read different contentions. They say disclosure solves new response irrelevant. Plus, disclosure is different because it's not specific to the topic, and they dropped that this is the first tournament on this topic, so interpretations are especially fluid and difficult to predict. Finally, drop the argument in public forum. Debaters do not have the obligation to be topical. This thing is called solvency deficit and linked defense. For example, on the TOC topic, if I read an argument that wasn't about the UNSC, you would simply say that's not the UNC. That would be terminal defense. There's no reason you would have to read an interpretation. That's all. They dropped it as linearly proportional. If I read two contentions that were not topical, then I would suffer two contentions being lost, which would solve for all of their drop the debater warrants.
Okay. Yeah.
Where's T? Case first, then T.
Case first.
Their case.
Okay.
Then T. Okay. Top level, he says he doesn't have to extend the offense. That is like ridiculous. Every other round you have judged on the topic, you have at least extended it. It would have taken you 5 or 10 seconds, but you didn't do it, which is at the very least you presume that because the drop presumption warrant, which is that every shifty definition, every shifty argument on their case feature is a reason why you should presume for us and prefer us. I understand that you may not want to make this decision, but it is a decision that you have to make at the end of the round. Also, terminal defense on the T is a reason to vote negative if there's no extension of the F with internal links or any extension whatsoever. He literally conceded there's no extension. We're going for T. Interpretation generative AI must produce new original content in the form of videos, images, or text. Low 24. I don't need to read the card again because we've already read it. I'm going for processing. This was dropped out of summary and final. Their TSSE evidence. This is not mathematical models, by the way. It was a separate violation that was read in every speech, starting from like rebuttal, and it was not responded to. It literally says in the tag it processes data, which is not new creation. I do not care. None of the we means matter at all insofar as they have dropped this out of 2 speeches in a row. They have not answered it despite the fact that it has been extended. Prefer. First on precision, they have sure dropped the warrant because literature distinguishes between Gen AI and other types of trees. You should follow how real-world experts talk because it's key to education. They have dropped the debate because it's about stopping in-round abuse, and it is constitutive to your role as the judge to not evaluate non-topical arguments. They say that it's about topical responses only. It is new out of final. We have made the claim, and it's out of rebuttal that it is the judge's job to drop the, not out of rebuttal, out of case, that it is the judge's job to not evaluate non-topical arguments. They say, he comes up, gives a huge spiel about like drop the argument. None of that was in Felix's summary. All he says is drop the argument should solve to. He said drop the argument is conceded. It was not conceded. We gave you warrants about how you time skewed us out of the round because you made us respond to a non-topical argument. Framing issue, competing in terms dropped, no RVIs, which means only risk of offense is on T. The perf con does not matter. There was no warrant given in the round. Why the perf con means you drop us first. The only warrant given is about sequencing, which is that you evaluate the abuse that happened first, which means you have to down them. There's no warrant given by them about premeditated murder. The warrant about premeditated murder is out of rebuttal for us. No response. Only warrant for why you dropped that.
All right, good.